So at this time, I would like to call the second presenter. So at this time, I will call on Mr. Sylvester Israel Ebhonu, who will speak on AI and knowledge ownership in Africa between colonization and opportunity. Mr. Sylvester would actually invite us to reflect on how AI tools can both perpetuate epistemic inequalities and open new avenues for African innovation and digital sovereignty. I can see that the slides are already shared. Sylvester, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dankwa. Good morning. All right, thank you so much. We're on a time schedule, so I want to say, first of all, thank you to AfLIA for this opportunity. And I want to bring warm regards from my university, Admiralty University of Nigeria, to everyone here present today. My name is Sylvester. I'm also called the Digital Librarian. And this work today, AI and knowledge ownership in Africa between colonization and opportunity, is an ongoing research. And we are adopting the Prisma framework to guide selection of the literatures. And we have a couple of objectives for this work. And one of them is to examine how current AI systems extract data, how they scrape the internet. And we also would like to find out the role African libraries are playing in safeguarding local knowledge within the AI environment. So in the next few minutes, I'll walk us through three major issues, which aligns with what the President, Dr. Sarah, had said. And I had to write that down, where she said, how are we able to guarantee the intellectual context and meaning? I don't know how she said it, but the meaning, how do we guarantee that the meaning of our own work and the intellectual context are not misrepresented once we do not own these African indigenous-based works? So, and that's what is in line with the three things I want to share with us today. The first is to explore who is actually making AI as smart as it is right now. Then secondly, we are going to look at the implication, perhaps the risks and exploitation of Africans or other users. Then I'll wrap up with the opportunities and the roles that libraries can play. However, I would like to apologize in advance that some people say I'm a fast talker. And today, I've been given 10 minutes. I think I'm going to be driving on a very fast Ferrari today. So first, I'm going to look at digital colonization. Who is making AI smart? Let's talk about this, for instance, because artificial intelligence is learning from us in ways that we may not even be able to express today. Because you see, underneath ChatGPT, for instance, those of us who use ChatGPT, you see somewhere where it says that the model is still learning from us. You understand that it improves every day based on our usage. So what I've just drawn here is a simple chart that just describes, in my own mind, I was thinking, okay, this is how AI works. First, it starts with Sam Altman of OpenAI, who first of all trains a particular model, GPT, a large language model, and they go through, they scrape the internet, gather information, and then they train a particular model. And then the next thing, they move to deploying that model. And people like me, Sylvester, we create an account and then we start using these models and we start interacting with these models. And then it gives us an output. Whether we are satisfied or not, we continue using these platforms. It gives us output, we continue using these platforms, and then we move to a stage where it begins to learn from us. This is how these ChatGPT or generative AI models we use. This is how they work. Now, with or without our consent, they leverage that information, those conversations we have with them, to improve the model for everybody, and the results we see on these models become smarter. Are we together? But what many people still don't understand is that AI is actually dumb without human input, dumb without our repositories, dumb without the data we feed into them, dumb without journal articles we publish. And what's abnormal about this model is that they rarely acknowledge our work. they are not as transparent as they should be. And what I tell my students at Admiralty University, for example, is one thing I make very clear to them is when you make a search on Google, for example, it gives you millions of results. You are able to track where those results are coming from. You are able to see clearly the sources of those information, where those ideas are gotten. But I ask them, don't you wonder about where ChatGPT gives you all those information? Who contributed the data? And who is credited when AI spills out or creates beautiful images? Sometimes we see a lot of videos created on via Sora and VEO, even Google Banana creating beautiful images nowadays. But how do this information come about? If you look at the right hand of my screen here, you see this prof is somebody I wouldn't say I've watched all his videos or read all his work, but Noam Chomsky gave a very, let me try to zoom. He says, let's stop calling it artificial intelligence and call it what it is and makes. That this thing we call artificial intelligence today is a plagiarism software. It's just that it becomes so smart, bypasses plagiarism detectors, paywalls, and all that, and rephrases works of scholars. And then we think that these models are smart. Now, if you look at the screen, where does AI get this information? Topping the list, as we can see on this chart, is Reddit. Reddit is a social media platform for crying out loud. And then you see the next on the list is Wikipedia. You can say thanks to AfLIA and I think Dr. Mukem, who has brought about a lot of awareness regarding the power of Wikipedia, because before now, Wikipedia is an open source platform, and we would all agree that it had been relegated by many people in the academia. And just recently, I was engaging with university librarians in Nigeria. And while I was interacting with them, I asked them a question. Now that you know where AI or ChatGPT gets its training data from, knowing that it gets its data from Wikipedia that many of us criticize, will it influence the way you use these tools going forward? This was a simple question I tried to ask them. So as we go further into this presentation, I'm going to be showing us some proof. And when you get this slide, you'll notice that every claim I make here has a link to it. All you need to do is click on it to learn more about it. You can see what Wikipedia is doing here, giving AI developers its data to fend off bot scrappers, such that they are now making data more easy for machine learning platforms to be able to scrape properly and not infringe on rights of people. Only data that are there are different types of copyright licenses. We're going to talk a little about that. Now, where I'm more concerned about in my presentation is this. In all that is going on, is it fair? Is it fair? Now, let's quickly talk about knowledge ownership. When I say fair, I'm talking about findable, accessible, interpretable, and if it's reusable. Okay. Now, the truth is, when AI scrapes the internet, it mixes things up. It repurposes content without clarity, and also people can get misled by the information that it gives to you. And then you see problem is created with the kind of information it gives to you. And when we say open access, we will agree that the idea of open access is not that something is just free. That we get something from ChatGPT doesn't mean that it's just free, but that the people who authored that work or who created that work are recognized for the effort that they put in those work. But in the contrast of what we see on the screen right here, you can see that AI, when extracting data, it usually assumes that because it's gotten from maybe a JOL website or because it's gotten from Wikipedia, that it is free and it can be used for anything, because that's what is currently happening today. Now, I would like you to take your time to read what's on the screen here, where I've tried to distinguish between some of the principles guiding open access and how you see that AI does not necessarily abide by these principles. I will go further because of time. I would have loved to explain that, but let's talk about colonization in the African context. Now, while I was searching for some literatures for this work, I came across one article by Abiba titled Algorithm Colonization of Africa. Now, when you skim through that article, you will notice that it clearly says that algorithmic colonization happens when the Western tech monopolizes or dominates both the market, not just the market as we're seeing right now. They dominate the market and they dominate the knowledge. And when you look at how African countries were colonized, for instance, as one of my uncles used to describe, he would say that the Western people, they came, they gave us religion, gave us Bible, and then in exchange for our culture, in exchange for the way we do things, in exchange for our own traditions and our own values. And many of us, permit me to say, we fell for this. And you also see the case of Kenyan workers, for example. You can see that Africa often becomes source materials, providing the text, providing the images, all the cultural content, all the stories that these models need to improve. We provide all this information. And you can see all this proof I have put here. And Michael asked and says, if you say artificial intelligence, I will say you can please correct that and say African intelligence. This is one of the Kenyans who were agitating about the exploitation of these big companies using them for training these models. Now, what are the implications of some of the things I've shared with us today? If you prompt a generative model like ChatGPT or Bing, and you say, if you look at the picture I created here, I don't know if we can see it, I included the prompt in which I use in creating this image. The prompt is simple. It says, create a realistic image of a female librarian addressing students within a library. Now, most likely, what you will get as a result is going to be a white person, people from the Western world, the global world, dominating that image. Now, the question is, why is this so? There are a couple of evidence that bias shows up daily in the use of these tools. What I want to draw our attention to is the algorithmic gaze. Algorithmic gaze is just like what we see as humans being shaped by our gaze, by our experience, and that forms an opinion, and it brings about some certain bias, which I've tried to describe here, from algorithmic gaze, and then comes about historical bias, and then that's what gives birth to stereotypes. Now, talking about stereotypes, let's look at Lee's research work here. I'm going to try to read from one. It says, in 2013, online search results for Black-sounding names were more likely to link arrest records with profiles even when they were false. That was 2013. And then 2 years later, Google apologized for an algorithm that automatically tagged and labeled two African Americans as gorillas just because they were Black. And then let's look at this last research. It says the online photoshopping application FaceApp was later found to be lightening the darker skin tones of African Americans because European faces dominated the training data. So you see how we are being marginalized here. There's proof to all this, and that's what this research work intends to actually unravel and also enlighten us about as librarians. Are we talking about citation impact of Africans? Honestly, I would say that we are also the originators of our problems, because while still looking at the implications, let's see, you see, many African researchers today endeavor to publish in local journals, but the works most times are not indexed, they are not cited, or they are not included in training data sets of these machines. Now, what is the implication of this, or why am I saying this? Recently, we held a workshop for scholars where we tagged visible or vanish. And the truth is, when you are not visible, when your work is not visible, you are not on OrcID, your work is not on Google Scholar, you will vanish. And without visibility, there is no ownership, no influence on the global scene. So, but then let me just ask some simple questions that can help us, because as we see on this graph here, you can see that our inputs, our citation frequency is actually low in Africa. Not until you publish in these Scopus journals, we rarely have the impact that we see. Hence, I'm trying to ask some questions here. Most African local research are excluded. Why? From training data. Is it possible that they don't recognize our local repositories? Another is, why are predatory journals often thrown at African publications? If we publish a work in a local journal today, it is assumed as even the universities will not use those works for promotion and all that. So we keep feeding their repositories in the global north with all the relevant data, leaving our own behind. I'm going to start wrapping up my presentation by playing a short video, and I just hope that this will calm everything I've said down. So I'll play the video right now for us to quickly watch. Okay, I'll just continue because of time.
Well, a digital version of me, just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know for you, these pictures are just memories, but for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity is sold just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom. I'm in trouble. I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
Okay, so thank you very much. I pray that you heard the audio. I'm not sure whether you heard it, but I'm wrapping up my presentation.
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. When you get the slide, you can take your time to watch this. You know, I never get tired of watching this video. It tells me the reality of what happens in the digital space. And look at some situations, some other news cases I've brought up here. Now, Italy's privacy watchdog bans ChatGPT over data breach concerns. If you look at another one, you see Jetty images where you know that before AI came on board and started generating images, you know, that's where we go to get images for our PowerPoint presentation. Now, London AI firm says that Jetty copyright case poses over threat to industry. This is Jetty suing AI. And then you see another case here. Now, the point I'm trying to make is when these models create these images, create these beautiful results for you, what you don't know is they have learned somebody's style of creating an artwork, and they are giving you that thing for free, and they are rendering they are discrediting somebody. Imagine if AI learns about Leonardo da Vinci's style of painting to create a painting for you. And who owns that particular image? The original artist. His style has been used to create that image for you. It goes uncredited, and you find people who use this work for commercial gains and make the recreators and design ideas to be unknown. While you take credit for all this, we must ask ourselves, are we comfortable with the AI built on our work, but giving us no voice or return? I'm not an AI expert, but I'm just a librarian whose principle is rooted deeply in ethics, unbiased access to information, and other values that we represent. So at our level, we can only do what we are doing right now, which is creating awareness on both the challenges and giving clues into how this model can be better. So how can we now leverage on these opportunities as I close my presentation? I cannot overemphasize, but I know that we know AI comes with a lot of opportunities, and there are roles that libraries can play in seizing these opportunities, as well as addressing the implications. First, there's a possible win-win scenario. Now, I'm just thinking out loud. For instance, in this slide, what if African libraries can start licensing our digital heritage collections to AI developers in a way that ensures that we are attributed and given appropriate visibility, or sometimes, if possible, compensated for our works that are being used to train this data? Also, can our universities or institutions or libraries collaborate with the tech guys and train local AI models that can help us talk about issues that concerns us. If you see on the screen now, I have referred us to a model released by NITDA, I believe, in Nigeria. Okay, it's called the N-Atlas. Time will not permit me to explain that, but I will wrap up my presentation by saying what we can do is, number one, let's promote African open access repositories. Let us build local AI models that are trained on African data sets. Let us enrich our JAWL. Let us enrich our own repositories. Let us lead responsible AI literacy like what we are doing currently. And as I leave you with this final slide, bear it in mind that if we do nothing about artificial intelligence development as it's springing up, and we continue to use it as consumers and not think of how we can produce things for ourselves, AI will continue to own our knowledge. They will exploit us, these producers, but if we take strategic actions, AI can amplify our work. Once again, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for listening to my presentation, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Sylvester. You see, when you listen to a presentation, that does not only speak to your heart, to you, but speaks to your emotions. Thank you, Sylvester, our digital librarian, for such an insightful and thought-provoking presentation. As I said earlier on, your presentation is more of a persuading presentation that speaks to our minds. It tells us where we are standing on as Africans. And I think that presenters online, I believe by now everybody is trying to go back to rethink how we can use AI. Indeed, AI should be an African intelligence, as Sylvester mentioned. AI is African intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And I must say that I know that from the first two presentations, you have learned quite a number of things, but I have learned a new phrase today. Sylvester mentioned algorithmic colonization. That's an interesting one. Okay, so thank you very much. And I believe that, yes, by the time we finish this summit, we will all be visible so we do not vanish as you indicated.